So next we will go to the next module, which is levels of testing. So in this module we will learn the different levels of testing, which are the major levels of testing, which is most commonly used in a project or most commonly used in any company. So the important one is the functional testing. So in functional testing, we will cover like unit testing, integration testing, system testing, user acceptance testing, sanity or smoke, we call it as, and regression testing and retest. And there are many different kinds of testing, even in functional and in non-functional testing. There are many kinds of testing. So non-functional testing we will not cover in detail each and everything. This is for your reference. There are different kinds of non-functional testing: performance testing, memory test, scalability, compatibility testing, security testing, cookies testing, session testing, recovery testing, installation testing, ad hoc testing, risk-based testing, compliance testing. So these all you can learn by yourself. You can go through different sites. So these are just for your understanding, and that is like I will explain one or two sentence about these major. I mean the important testing in this non-functional testing, but we will not cover in detail because this is not very important for, and it is not like all the companies will be doing all this testing in the software testing cycle of their project. Some will be doing some testing, and some of the testing in this, and some it depends on the requirement of the particular application and the requirement of the particular client and the time constraint. So they do different testing. So if a very it's a banking application or it is a very security threat application, then they will do security testing. Some application they don't prefer to do the security testing. Cookies testing, like if your project application is creating any cookies additionally, like you if you have seen many websites nowadays, when you go to the websites they say like this website produce cookies, do you want to accept it, do you want to accept and continue viewing the website or application, or do you want to reject it? So if the application is producing some cookies, so some will not be doing this cookies testing because their application might not be producing any cookies. So actually these cookies are all like kind of threat also, like some hackers can send their hacking through cookies. So that is, we will accept it or we will reject it is as per our choice. So some projects they don't do this cookies testing because the application might not be producing any cookies. So it depends. These are all kind of testing. Some companies might do or might not do. Most of the companies they don't do all the testing. It is as per their need they do this testing. So first we will see the unit testing. So what is unit testing is like unit testing. We have discussed little bit about this previously. Unit testing is mostly done by the developers. So what unit testing is? Unit testing is testing the individual modules. For example, there is a login screen, login username, password, and login button screen. So this is one particular unit in a application. So the developers who is has developed this will write the test cases for this particular unit, and they will do testing for that particular unit. So this unit testing will be done by testers as well, but mostly unit testing is white box testing, and in many cases testers also do unit testing in the functionality level. So unit testing is like, yeah, there will be different units, like there is a unit of login screen as I have said, and you have add a customer screen in the next page. So that is a different unit. Then you have a delete a customer in a different page, that is a different unit. So can go through that. So how it is like unit testing. So login screen will be called as one unit. Then add a customer, if you keep for example, it will be one unit. So delete a customer, for example, you can call it another unit. Then edit a customer, we can call it as, it is 1 unit. So testing this unit individually, test each unit will be tested individually, testing individually testing single unit. So they don't test, for example, they test only the login screen. They will not, they will check whether login username password we are giving correctly, if it is going to the home page. They will not check the next page, how it is performing, what is wrong in that, nothing. They will just check unit by unit. Mostly it is done by white box testers, and more importantly, testers also do this in functionality level. They also test unit by unit. So they will check add a customer. A testers will check add a customer as a one unit, and they will test this. They will not check delete a customer. They will just check add a customer, and the adding a customer is updated in the database or no. They will not go to the next one. So like this, unit by unit testing is called unit testing, and this is a basic testing in any project. The first testing which they will carry out is unit testing. So next what we will see is integration testing. So integration testing is the advanced level of unit testing. All the projects, all the companies do integration testing, and integration testing is the next phase of a testing. Like it is little advanced of a unit testing. So you could have understood from that like what is integration testing. So integration testing is nothing but combining 2-3 units and testing is called integration testing. So the units, so it can be 2 or 3 units. So as a name indicates, integration is what, like you are integrating. So integration testing is nothing but it is a combination of 1 or 2 units. Integration testing is, maybe we can consider this is 1 unit, this delete a customer is another unit. So you will add a customer, and you will add a customer, for example visual path, you are adding a customer and deleting the customer, visual path customer delete. So this together we will combine these two units and do the testing is called integration testing. So integration testing is very important in any software project, because and it cannot be like, you cannot say like only these two units, we may combine this unit as well, edit. So how we will do, first they will create a customer, they will edit the visual path as for example visual path testing. You can edit this the customer, and what they will delete is visual path testing, will delete it. So these 3 units is combined and tested is called integration testing. So I think so. So what integration testing overall means, like the combined part of application is working properly or no. Like the different units when they combine with where the units are interrelated. Most of the application, the many units will be interrelated, but maybe not all the units will be interrelated. Some units will be interrelated. So in so the units together, whether it is performing properly or not. So we can see in the simple customer and edit a customer and delete a customer together is working properly or no. If you want, you can include the login screen as well. So this integration testing is very important. We'll go through little in detail in this integration testing. So the meaning of integration testing, as I said, is very straightforward. Like it is integrate or combine the unit tested, right? So in any testing life cycle, first testing is unit testing. Why first testing is unit testing? Because the developers will not develop all the units all together, or all the units will not be ready for testing immediately. So the developers will develop us different units. So when different units are developed in agile methodology, the different units will be started, will be, they will, the testers will start testing the different units. So that is the reason we have unit testing. So login screen is developed, the tester will start testing the login screen using his test cases. When add a customer page is developed, the tester will start testing the add a customer page using his unit test cases. That is important. So using his unit test cases, and when integration testing happens, he will test all, add a customer, edit a customer, etc. together whether it is working or fine or no. So this integration testing, they will have a different set of test cases for this. So what it says is integrate or combine the unit tested module one by one and test the behavior of a combined unit. So which will be unit tested already. Login screen will be unit tested, add a customer will be unit tested, everything will be unit tested already. These all unit tested components you will combine together and do a testing is called integration testing. You will check it as a combined unit. So the main goal of integration testing is whether the interface between the different modules are working properly or no. So what you mean by interface is when you add a customer, it will go and store the particular customer in a database and it will display in the application as well. So when you add a customer, then the customer should be available, this visual path customer should be available for editing. So once you edited this customer, this visual path testing customer should be available for deleting. So that is what it has been mentioned here. Like the main function or goal of this testing is to test the interfaces that between the units and modules are working or no. So when you add a customer, whether it is available for editing and deleting as well. So that interface between different pages or different modules are working properly or no, it comes under integration testing. So as I said, we normally do integration testing after unit testing. So once all the individuals units are created and tested, we started combining that unit tested models and start doing the integration testing. So mostly it is like, it can be like this. It is not a 100% statement, this one. So what here it says is when all the unit testing modules are developed and tested, so unit testing is done, then they will combine, they will do the integration testing by combining the modules. So it can be true and in some cases it need not be true. So for example, here your application has only these three scenarios which is related to customer. You don't have anything else in the application which is related to the customer or anything. So what they do is they will start doing integration testing for this particular screen irrespective of the other screens are being developed or no. So the other screens are just like billing, etc., etc. So we need not bother whether it is being developed or no. They will start integration testing for this and they will complete it for this particular thing. Then they will start integration testing for the other one. So it always doesn't stand hold correct, like all the unit testing modules has been developed and has been tested. If the related modules are being done, we know that clearly, like the related modules are completed, then we can start the integration testing for those particular scenarios. We need not wait for the other scenarios to complete. So but most of the cases what happens is this: once all the unit testing all the individual modules has been developed and they had been unit tested, they will go for the integration testing. But it depends on the time. If time is less, they will do the, if there is no dependency for this integration testing number 1, integration testing number 2 doesn't have dependency on integration testing number 1, then they will start integration testing 1. So as I said, main goal is to test the interfaces between units and modules. So first the unit testing, individual modules are first tested in isolation. What is that? It is unit testing. So once the modules are unit tested, they are integrated one by one till all the modules are integrated to check the combinational behavior and validate whether the requirements are implemented correctly. So this is what I was repeating from the beginning. So how it is like, once all the unit test modules has been completed, they will be integrated one by one. So how it is like in our case itself, if you see, once you do add a customer and one has completed edit a customer, then delete a customer still is in progress. They will combine add a customer and edit a customer. The two models will be merged, and they will anyway start the unit testing for this separately. They will merge, and once delete a customer also is done, they will merge delete the customer as well, and they will do the combination of three, which is called integration testing. So what we understand from this is this integration testing does not happen at the end of the cycle. So they doesn't do at the end of the cycle this integration. Just when the integration modules or integratable modules has been developed, they will do the integration testing. So it is not a end-to-end testing from beginning of the application to the last of the application. This testing main point to note is they do integration testing only to the modules which which are integrated. So for example, in our case, these three modules can be integrated, so they do the integration testing. So there are some other modules like billing of a customer. Only this is only one page of the billing of the customer. So in this case, integration testing is not required for. There is only one page in the application. Whether it is not combined and it does not, I'm just taking it as an example. Billing of a customer, we will leave it. We will take it as information. Okay, we take it as contact us page of a application. If any website, if you go, there will be a contact us. If you see, they will display the information of their address, their telephone number, etc., etc. So this contact us is an individual page. This page is not related. For this page, the information doesn't comes from any other page. So in this case, contact us will be only unit tester. It will not be a part of integration testing because it is not integrated with any other model, or it doesn't have communication with any other modules in the application. So this contact us will be only unit tested, and it will go to the system testing, or which I will explain you later, or which will go to the end-to-end testing. It will not be a part of integration testing. So only the modules which are related to each other will be which there is a communication between the modules. Those modules will be the part of integration testing. The other modules will not be a part of integration testing. So that is what we are trying to say here. Does not happen at the end of the cycle. So it doesn't happen at the end of the cycle because we will not cover the full application in this. We will just cover the modules which are communicating each other. The other, it is conducted simultaneously with the development. So that is what I said in the first point. It doesn't mean like all the individual units has to be available for integration testing. So when they know like one part of the application is ready and there is no other module which is depending on that particular scenario, then they will start doing integration testing for that scenario. They will not wait for all the full application to be developed or all the units to be ready. They will just start the integration testing of that individual scenario. So that is what we are saying here. It is conducted simultaneously with the development. So in most of the times, all the modules, this is very important point. So in most of the time, all the modules are not actually available to test, and here is what the challenge they will face. So sometimes in the later point of time, they will come to know like there is some other module which is getting data from this particular module, or which is having which is related to the particular module which has been already which has been already tested. Already integration testing has been carried out in that module. In that case, it is a major disadvantage because you have to carry out the integration testing fully again, or you have to compromise the testing to some level. So this is a disadvantage of integration testing. So there are different types of integration testing. One foremost type is big bang approach. So big bang approach is nothing but this will integrate all the modules. So this approach is not widely followed. The big bang approach is not widely followed because this big bang approach will be integrating all the modules in one go. Like every module of the application will be combined, and then only they do this big bang approach, because that is not practically possible. When all the modules has been already combined, then they will go for system testing. So in system testing also will they do integration testing? Yes, in system testing also integration test cases will be covered. So in some companies they don't do integration testing separately. If they are waiting for all the modules, they will directly start the system testing. So in so big bang approach is nothing but so to overcome this problem, integration testing has another two approaches which I will come after this. So big bang approach is nothing but you will wait for all the modules to be developed, and you will do the integration testing together for all the modules. So it verifies if the system works as expected or not once integrated. So here important thing we have to note is like approach integrates all the modules in one go. So in one go they integrate all the modules and do this testing. If any issue is detected in the completely integrated module, so this is a major disadvantage of the big bang approach. So when you are waiting for all the modules and when all the modules has been combined, if there is some issue with any of the module, it is very difficult to find where the particular issue is arising or where the particular module is failing. So it becomes very difficult to find out which module has caused the issue. So there are different modules. You can see like there will be some hundreds of modules. So when you are combining hundreds of modules, when you are doing integration testing, you cannot find. So if for in our example itself, so we have three modules. So you keep for this customer only there are some 20 modules. Like this, you will combine all the modules. So there will be some hundreds of modules. So this customer information is a lot. So tomorrow, when there is a failure in the customer page or something is going wrong, to find which module is, because you have integrated all the modules, you have combined all the modules. So something is failing in between. It is very difficult to find or analyze from because of which module, because of integration of which module this particular scenario is failing. It is very difficult. That is a major disadvantage of this big bang approach. So and big bang approach is a time consuming process of finding a model which has a defect. So this is what I have explained, as that it will take time for detecting where it failed and fixing the same, and more importantly again you have to do the whole integration process. And you imagine like there are hundreds of modules, you have combined all the modules and something failed, and it is very difficult to find where it failed. And you are again, you spend time and you detected and you fixed, and you are again testing, and again it has to be tested whole because you never knew where it failed. So you cannot take a risk only testing where it failed. You have to test the whole integration test cases, so which is very time consuming. So there are main two approaches of integration testing to overcome that big bang theory. So they came up with the two more approaches. One is bottom up approach and one is top down approach. So what they do in bottom up approach and what they do in top down approach, we will see. In bottom up approach, what they do is they will start developing the units from bottom. So how it is bottom up approach, the units will be developed from bottom. So there are 1 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like this. There are different scenarios. So they will do the testing, they will do the integration testing, they will even do the development from bottom. They will start doing the units from bottom to the top. So when you are from sixth module to, they will go to the first module. Like that, they will start from the bottom. So what disadvantage this bottom up approach will have is, for example, the third module is not developed. So how you will proceed with the testing? So you will be coming from the bottom, sixth, fifth, fourth, like the test, but the third one is not developed. So in that particular case, they will do, that is what it comes, these things come into picture. They will replace this particular with drivers. What it means is, they will keep some dummy way, they will do a dummy testing in that, or they will replace the original module with some dummy modules, and they will do the testing. Like how we can say is like, you have, for example, in our scenario itself, for example, bottom up, you are checking from edit, delete, add a customer. Okay. So delete a customer is not developed. What they do is, they will do the edit the customer, and for delete a customer, they will replace with some drivers which is dummy, which may be the code of some other application. They will just go and put there, and they will delete it, and or they will manipulate it by not testing it, and they will try to, I mean, they will not pass this, and they will what they say, try to skip it by doing a different kinds of testing. And other one is top down approach. Top down approach, it is the same scenario. Here we are coming from bottom to top. Top down approach is from top to bottom they go. And in top down approach also the same thing. If something is not available, if some modules is not available in that, they will replace it with stubs. So what are the difference? We can see stubs is for top down. Used in top down approach, topmost model is tested first. Like what is in top, that models will be tested first. Stimulates the lower level of components, dummy program of lower level of components. So what they do, from you are approaching from top, so in between something is not available, they will try to stimulate, or they will try to put a dummy piece of code there, which will perform that particular action for that particular time. For example, there will be a code, a dummy code, which is not a proper code. It can be done by the developers. If you go into any software industry, you can understand that they will put a dummy piece of code which is not a proper code, and they will do the testing of this delete a customer, but they will keep a note of it, this delete a customer has not been tested properly. But they wanted to finish, and they wanted to, actually the main aim of this integration testing is whether the integration is working properly or no. So when they are putting a dummy piece of code for a delete, they will find out whether the integration is working properly or no. So the functionality of delete a customer is not been tested. Here the what to say, main motive of this is like whether integration is working properly or no. So for testing that integration, they will put a dummy piece of code. The dummy piece of code from be anywhere. They will put a HTML code, they will just copy a HTML delete code from internet, and they will put so that will anyway perform you clicking on the delete, but it will not work as a full functionality, but it can replace as a dummy code. Or they will copy paste the code from their any of the previous projects. I mean, not copy paste, they will put that code in here, and they will just test whether the integration is working properly or no. The same thing happens with stubs and drivers. So they will do a dummy piece of code. That is what it is being explained here. Stimulates the lower level components, dummy program of lower level components. So here they call it as we are going from top to bottom. Here the difference between top to bottom is only two things. One is like top to bottom and bottom to top, there is only two difference. One is like for top to bottom approach, at least many of the top modules should have been developed, and the lower modules 1 or 2 or 4 5 is not developed. They will do this dummy thing. That is what they call it with different names. One is a stubs and one is a driver. So in top to bottom, most of the top level modules should have been available, and in the bottom level, that is what here it is called, stimulates the lower level of components. Again, dummy program of lower level of components. So lower level components will be dummied, or for the lower level component they will put a dummy code or a dummy any, they will do the dummy testing and they will do the top down approach. So what is the advantage? You will save a lot of time. You will finish the integration testing. So it is the same with bottom up. You will replace with drivers, and again if you note down the line here, stimulates the higher level of components. So here from bottom it should be going, again the same scenario, the bottom scenarios or modules should be available. So most of the bottom modules should be available, and the top modules, if something is wrong, they will, I mean if something is not completed or developed, they will put the dummy code or dummy things, dummy program, and that is called as drivers. So this is very important. Bottom up approach is, if code is not done, the upper level modules are replaced by dummy programs, which is called drivers. And top down approach, most of the top modules should have been developed, and for the lower level components they replace with a dummy program which will be called as stubs. So this is how they do the testing of integration when the time is very limited and they have to complete the integration testing. So as I said, the dummy code can be anything. It from a previous application, they will just put a HTML code and the developers can do that. It will not be a full functionality, but it will represent us and it will do the functionality with there is no much work needed for that particular code. They use that kind of code. So this is about all integration testing. So system testing. System testing is the advanced future of integration testing. So here we have seen unit testing. Unit testing is testing each and every components. Integration testing is combination of components. System testing is nothing, you can understand from the name system. System testing is testing the whole application as a whole. What is system testing? System testing is testing the complete application, all whole application. Application will be tested, we can call it as end to end. Okay, so with all the test cases documents, the system test cases will be developed differently. So the system test cases will be covering end to end of the functionality, from login screen to end of the functionality. It will be covered in system testing, and proper system testing test cases should be there, which only they call it as normally test cases. So the application will be tested whole. So that is called system testing. Most of the, not most, 100% of the companies, they don't release the product. 99.9% we can say, they don't release a product without doing the system testing. So system testing is testing the whole of the application. This is very important. Full application end to end should be tested. That is called system testing. So it is combination of unit and integration testing. So unit testing is individual components, integration testing combination of components, system testing is full application. So next is, after system testing, they goes for user acceptance testing, or it can be called as UAT. So user acceptance testing is nothing but, as the name indicates, it is the user should accept the product. For that, the user does the testing, that is called user acceptance testing. I will repeat, the user, for accepting the product, he does the testing. That is what it is called, user acceptance testing. So after unit testing, after integration testing, after system testing, this user acceptance testing is mostly done by the end customers or the stakeholders who who wants the application. So user acceptance testing is done by the end customer, and he tests whether the application is as per his requirement. So user acceptance testing is mostly done at the user's place. The developers and testers, which we have discussed earlier also, the developers and developers will deploy the application in the user's machine, in the user's place, in the user's environment, and the user will do the user acceptance testing whether the application is working fine as per his requirement. So the user himself do the testing. And in one line, if you say, the user acceptance testing is done nothing but, which will be done by the end customer or the stakeholders to verify whether all his requirements are satisfied or no. It can have test cases, the user can have a separate test cases for them, or as per the user's experience, he does by his own testing. So in some cases, very limited cases, the user acceptance testing will be done by the testers of the particular company itself who has developed the application. So it all depends on the user whether he wants to do testing of himself, or if he is not having a team of doing that user acceptance testing, he have a separate team. The company which is developing the product or project itself will have a separate members who is expert in this user acceptance testing, or who is expert in the domain. So they know like how a end user, so the user is like, you are developing a project for a ICICI bank. So for example, Visual Path is developing an application for ICICI bank. So here who is the developer of the application is Visual Path. So end customer here who is ICICI bank, or stakeholder or end customer is ICICI bank. So ICICI bank may have their own user acceptance testers, or they will have their own testers who is good in domain. And once Visual Path finishes the development of ICICI bank application, they deploy the application in the ICICI bank server or environment where they want to do. The developers of Visual Path will do that. I'm taking it as an example. And the user acceptance tester of ICICI bank will do the testing from, very important is, from user's point of view. The user acceptance testers main work is they will test the application from user's point of view, like how a normal user or how a expert user, like for example their ICICI bank application will be used from a normal guy also who doesn't have much knowledge of the internet or computers, and it will be used by experts who uses computers also. Like some people will be always in computer, or some people knows much about the computer and about the banking applications. So some will be very layman, they don't know much about the banking applications, how to operate, how to withdraw, how to transfer to the different account. Some will be very layman, they don't know much, and some will be experts, they know already much banking application and they can do it very easily. So the user will take into account all these things. Like the user acceptance tester will test as a layman who don't have any knowledge on the computer, and he wants to do all these activities of ICICI bank, and he will do the testing as a not expert, as a very good user of a computer who knows most of the things on computers. like how to operate a banking account, how to transfer funds, etc. So he will do in both the ways, in the layman point of view also, in the expert point of view also. So it is bluntly like how the user will, how the different types of user will use the application. The user acceptance tester will do the testing in that way. So uh, it uh, it can be, yes, if ICICI Bank is requesting visual path, like we don't have user acceptance tester. If you have any banking domain expert who can do this user acceptance testing, banking domain expert as well as user acceptance testing expert, you please give us, then visual path can deploy. Visual path will normally send them to the ICICI Bank's location and they do the user acceptance testing. And this team should be different from the testing team, because the tester will be overconfident because they have already tested the application and they will not find out new issues, or they will not find out the issues from user perspective. So this will be a different team and they will deploy an ICICI Bank and they will do the testing. So this is called user acceptance testing. So next is sanity or smoke testing. So next is a sanity or smoke testing. So what is like smoke testing is like, as the name indicates, a smoke. So when the smoke will come, before a fire, a smoke will start. So before fire, there is a smoke. There is a proverb like that. So smoke testing is nothing like before the fire. Fire is like system testing, which is a full end-to-end testing of the application or the system under test. So smoke testing is nothing but before doing system testing, they do the smoke testing, which is like they will they will create a for smoke testing, whether the test cases will be created or no. Yes, the test cases will be created for a smoke testing. So in smoke testing, most of the testing is done for the major functionality of a application. So uh, whether the login and logout is a major functionality in our example itself, like add a customer, it is a major functionality. Delete a customer is a major functionality. Edit a customer is a major functionality. So you keep it like address of a customer. So this is there is a particular part of the application which will be displaying the address of the customer. So that is not a major functionality. That will be covered in system test, but that will not be covered in smoke test. So smoke test is nothing but it will be doing the major functionality of, it is a functional testing. It will be the testing of the major functionality of a system is called smoke testing. So before start, when the smoke testing will be conducted, the smoke testing will be conducted before the system testing. So once application is ready for the testing and it is deployed in the testing environment, the tester will start the smoke testing to check whether the basic or important functionalities are working fine. For example, login screen itself is not working with the proper username password, then there is no point of continuing the testing, or there is no point of continuing to the major part of testing like system testing or integration testing. So the smoke testing will be done major functionality. So when the major functionality itself is broken, they will not continue with the system testing. So when a testing fails in smoke testing, immediately it will be sent back to the developers or the development team saying like this particular testing is rejected. So develop the application properly and send it back for testing. So the major functionalities they will test, and it is broken, they will send back to immediately. So why this smoke testing is conducted is to save the time where you will waste. So I said a small example of login screen. So login screen is working fine. You are going inside the application and there is a major functionality, for example, our add a customer. So adding a customer itself is failing. So there is no point in continuing the testing for edit a customer or delete a customer. So once you add a customer, only you can edit a customer and or you can delete a customer. So adding customer itself is failing, it will be covered in the smoke testing, and they will send back immediately like the build failed, or the application is rejected. They will send back to the developer, because there is no point in continuing with the system testing and wasting time for that. So that does the major functionality which will save lot of time, which if you are not doing smoke testing, you will start doing system testing. The testers also, there will be different testers, they will be going on doing the system testing, and major time will get wasted. So after one day, the tester will send back the application, the send back the build, particular build, to the developers, saying like this is not working properly. So that is a lot of time waste. So what they do is smoke testing within 1 or 2 hours. There will be very small set of test cases. So if it is if it is a application or a project which is having around 500 test cases, or you keep it as 500, yeah, 500 test cases, there will be some 10 percentage of smoke testing test cases. Like there will be some 50 test cases which are smoke testing test cases, which will uh, cover the major functionalities. So in these 50, some test cases are failing, they will send back and they will not accept it for testing, which will save lot of time. So this is a smoke testing. So next is regression test. So regression tests also have a different set of test cases. Regression test is nothing but you have these scenarios for build number 1 or release 1. There will be many releases, release 2, release 3, etc. So these all scenarios, one, login, add a customer, delete a customer, edit a customer, address of a customer. So these all are in release 1. Okay. The release 2, so this is been tested, this has been developed, tested, and it has been released to the customer. So release 2, there will be some enhancement, or there will be a development of some different new models. So in release 2, you have very different set. We will say the same example, billing of the customer, payment of customer, calculation of bill. We can keep it a simple example of what is that? Your Vodafone or Airtel application, where you are generating the billing of the customer, payment of the customer, calculation of billing of the usage. We can take it as a simple example of Airtel or Vodafone customer as a telecom domain. So this will come in the release 2. So this release 2 testing of end-to-end will be called system testing. So when doing the release 2 testing, you will check the functionalities of release 1 is working properly or no. So when you are doing testing of release 2, you will be testing doing the testing of release 1, which is add a customer, delete a customer, edit a customer, address of a customer. So this is all covered in release 1. When you are doing release 2, you will be testing these functionalities also. For example, when you are doing release 2 development of billing of the customer, the developer while developing this might have done some mistake and add a customer which was released in the release 1 itself might not be working. Or when he is doing billing of a customer module, he might have screwed up something in address of a customer which is done in release 1. So to make sure like the release 2 developments has not affected the functionality of release 1 functionalities is called regression testing. So I will repeat it. So in the release 2, it is consequently like that. Release 3 you will test release 1, and release 2 functionalities are working fine, because release 3 development has not affected release 1 and release 2 functionalities. So it is vice versa, it will go on like that. So release 2, when the customer is developing, it might not have affected any. We will now, just for our understanding, we will keep only release 1 and release 2. So when doing release 2 development, the developer or the anyone has not done something which will affect the functionalities of release 1. So release 1 functionalities are still working fine in release 2 also. That kind of testing is called regression testing. So regression testing is nothing but testing of the previous releases or previous functionalities are working fine in the current release also. Testing the previous functionalities are working fine in the current release is called regression testing. So how far it will go on? In release 20 also they will be testing regression cases of release 1 to release 19. So in some companies they don't do full-fledged regression testing. They will not be testing each and every test cases of release 1, release 2, release 3 until release 19, because it is lot of effort. And if time permits and it is there are a lot of time to do all the testing, they do release 1 to release 19, all the functionalities are working fine for release 20, or something got issue with release 3, release 4, something. When he is developing for release 20, he might have messed up with some functionality of release 3, release 4. So regression testing is very important, like the previous releases functionalities are working properly or no. So here is here the automation testing plays a major role. So why automation testing is mainly used is to do the regression testing. So what they do, companies, if you are doing a release 20, they automate the test cases from release 1 to release 19. And when there is release 20 testing, the manual testers or functionality testers will do the release 20 testing, and the automation scripts they execute from release 1 to release 19, which will say, because release 1 to release 19, if you want to check all the functionalities, which if it is working properly in release 20, it takes lot of time for the testers. It may take 4-5 days also. So they automate these test cases and they execute the test cases when they are doing the testing of release 20. They release that execute the automation test cases of release 1 to release 19. So automation testing also has many challenges in that case, that is not covered in our manual testing. So there they use the automation testing is mostly used in the regression testing. So that is the reason you would have observed in many companies the automation testing will not capture many bugs, because they had been already tested. Release 1 to release 19 is already been tested, and that you are executing through automation. So only if something the developer broke in release 20 of previous releases, then the automation testing will find out that. So there is where automation testing comes into picture, and which will be very useful for regression testing. So what is retest? Retest is nothing but there is a difference between regression testing, huge difference between regression testing and retest. Retest is nothing but in your current release itself, there is a reason when they are putting regression test and retest next to next, because you should not get confused with this regression test and retest, because they are totally different concept, and they are totally unique. Retest is nothing but in this itself there are no other releases, you're just having release 1. Retest is nothing but you have found a bug in add a customer module. You have found a bug like when you give the customer's name more than 15 characters. We can say like visual path. So here, when in the customer name, when you are giving a space, visual space path, the application is not working. The developer has not developed it to handle the space for add a customer name field. It is will be written in customer name. Customer name is visual path. So the developer has not handled the space for customer name. So what happens? It is failed. The tester will go to the bug tracking tool and they will raise a issue as saying like customer name is not accepting space, which is in the requirement document. Very important is in the requirement document they have mentioned like customer name should accept space also. It makes sense. There are two names. There will be space between first and second name for many customers. So as per requirement document, customer name should have space. But as the developer has developed in such a way, like when you are giving space for the customer name, it is not accepting the space. It is throwing error message, enter a valid customer name. So this is a issue or bug. So what you will do, you will go to the bug tracking tool. The tester will log a bug saying like in a Jira or anything, customer name is not accepting space, and he will give the details. Details will be mentioned, and he will assign to the developer. Here assign to the developer, it can mean like development lead or anything. He will assign to the particular developer who developed that module. So this is cycle 1. This is cycle 1. So he found a bug in when add a customer, the customer name is not accepting space. He raised a issue. He noted down in the test case that it is failed, and he is logged that bug in the Jira and assigned to the developer. So this is testing 1 or cycle 1. So it will go to the developer. The developer will then fix these bugs. Like he will make the customer name field to accept the space as well. And there will be many other testing. We will just concentrate on this. He will fix the bug where the customer name with the spaces also will be accepted. So once this developer fix the bug, he will reassign to the tester or test lead, anyone, and the test lead will assign back to the tester who has done the testing and raised the bug. So he will reassign to the tester. As of now, we will keep it for understanding. He will reassign to the tester who tested it. Okay. So now it will come back to the tester, and the tester will retest. Very important point. The tester will retest the bug. He will retest by giving the same input criteria. So these all input criteria also we should mention when we are raising the bug. What kind of input you have used when you are finding the bug, which we will see when we are seeing bug lifecycle. So the customer name not accepting space, the tester will test that, and he will say in retest the bug, and he will say whether working or not working, or other words we can say pass or fail. So this is what when you are raising the bug and when it is been fixed by the developer, and when it comes back to the tester and the tester do the testing again of that particular bug is called retesting. And if again the bug is not fixed, if the tester feels, again he will send, again he will do the retesting. So the retesting 1, retesting 2, it will go on like that. This is a small example. Bigger complicated application will go for many retesting. It will not be 1 or 2 retesting, it can be many number of retesting. So the fix of the bug and retesting of the bug again after fix is called retesting, and regression testing is Difference between regression and retest is regression testing is whether the functionalities of previous releases are working fine in the current release is regression testing. So there many releases are involved. Here, the same release itself, whether the particular bug is fixed or not, will be tested by a tester is called retesting. So now we have covered this functional testing. Now we'll go to the non-functional testing.